Tim from Everyday Tactical Vids here, and today we're taking a look at another fixed blade survival knife from Schrade. This is the Schrade SCHF3N. This is going to run you probably between $35 and $45 depending on the retailer that you go to purchase it. And I will tell you that this is the plain edge. There is also one that has a partially serrated edge as well. That's the Schrade SCHF3. So as we start talking through some of the specs here, first let me tell you, when you look at the blade, you can see that it already has some wear on it. I have taken this knife out into the woods and really used it severely and aggressively, and we'll show you some video of me when I actually get out into the field and test it. But this knife has held up, but in case you're wondering about the blade right there, that's why it does look like it has been beat up, because it actually has been beat up. Looking at the blade first, it is 6 1/4 inches long. It does have a black finish. It is made of stainless steel, and if you are interested in getting the one that has partial serrations, they do come about up to here, so you're talking about a third of your total blade length will have serrations on it. The handle is micarta, and you can obviously tell that it has some very deep finger grooves. Looking at the bottom here, you can see there is an option for a lanyard. And while this does have a little bit of a pommel here at the end, it would certainly be better for breaking or smashing as opposed to hammering something into the ground like a tent stake or something like that. Obviously the blade, you can tell here, is full tang, meaning that the metal goes all the way from the blade and through the handle. The jimping that you'll find is here on the top of the blade, and this micarta handle is textured on both sides to add to grip. I'll talk about this a little bit more when we're out in the field, but you can tell that obviously you can hold the knife like this on the handle, and also with this deep choil here you can choke up if you want to do some finer work with the knife as well. Here's another look at the jimping. That's where your thumb will rest when you're holding the knife. It isn't very aggressive jimping, but it will give you a little bit more control when you are holding the blade. Here's the sheath that is included when you order the knife. A couple things worth noting. You do have a snap here to secure the handle. Hook and loop closure here that opens up a small pocket where you could store fire, steel, map, something like that in the front section. And quite a bit of cordage is included, and this is usable for a variety of survival applications and also to secure the bottom of the sheath to your leg. The top of the sheath is secured by running your belt through this loop right here. On the back you can see we do have grommet holes and the cordage is running through that. There's also some molly webbing here. So that just gives you a large variety of options when it comes to how you want to secure the sheath and the blade to gear, backpack, whatever it might be. Here's what the knife looks like when it's actually in the sheath and attached to my belt. As you can see, the belt runs through here, and then down at the bottom of the sheath there is some included rope, and I've tied a piece of that around my thigh here, and that will lessen the movement of the knife and the sheath as I walk. Out here in the field now, we'll continue our testing, and we'll start out with some batoning. Here's our pile of wood after we got done with the batoning. So after I put that last section together on batoning, I thought, let me take this knife and really put it through the paces with that type of aggressive work. And so I've been out here batoning in the woods for about 15 minutes. I'll show you the pile of wood that I have. I'll also show you 2 pieces of wood that I couldn't get through. And actually it was just because I didn't have a baton big enough to just wail on the knife to actually get it through these pieces of wood. So take a look and see how this blade has actually held up after 15 minutes of very hard use. So right here you can see the pile of wood I've made after about 15 minutes of batoning. Just to give you a sense, there's the side of the blade as compared to the size of the actual pile. So that's good to get your fire going. Here's one of the pieces of wood that I wasn't able to get through just because of this knot. My baton kept breaking. I was able to break off the end and baton that piece. And then the other piece that was quite large was this one right here. And again, my baton just kept breaking. I didn't feel like going out to find something huge to baton with. So just to show you that the knife has held up despite some very heavy use. As I mentioned before, I do like the fact that you can grip the knife both this way, and also you can choke up if you want to do some more fine work. So we're going to get some shavings off one of the pieces of wood that we just batoned, and make a little pile there to show you some of the fine work that this blade can do as well. Here are some of the fine shavings we got from using the SCHF3N. So certainly it can do the batoning and also this finer work as well. I stepped over into the shade here to do another test on the SCHF3N, and that is to see if the top of the blade actually has a steep enough angle to get a spark off your ferro rod. So I went into the shade so you can see the spark a little bit more, and you can see here as we do that, that does work. One of the challenges I find with larger survival knives or outdoor knives is that they can be great for batoning or more aggressive work. When it comes to that finer work, certainly it can be a little bit more challenging if the blade is too large. Now you saw when I was choking up like this, I got those nice shavings if we were going to start a fire. I do want to show you another thing. We do have some dried ragweed here. It's early November, and so this is dying out, but you can see without a lot of effort, I can just basically a little tap of the wrist, and you can see I can chop through this quite easily. So not a lot of work. Sometimes you get a blade that's so thick that you really have to hack or you have to cut through things like that, but I'll show you a couple more times here. Very easy to get through it. Here's a tiny, tiny one, and that works. Now, sometimes when you want to cut through something like that, you got to have a full pull of the blade against whatever you're cutting, but this gives you a little sense of, you know, if you had to cut some small branches, you were making a trap system, whatever it might be, this blade can still do that type of work as well. Back here in the studio now as we wrap up our review on the SCHF3N, and the first thing I want to talk about is the sheath quickly. One thing I didn't note earlier is that there is a plastic liner that actually is inside the webbing material here, so the blade is not actually resting against this material, it's inside this liner, and I'll show you quickly what that actually looks like. So that's how it's going to actually rest inside the sheath, and that liner is secured both here and here to the sheath. So when it comes to the actual sheath, one of the pluses is definitely this front pocket. You can store survival materials in there, you could store a fishing kit, you could store a ferro rod, whatever it might be. So that's nice to have that extra space. I do like the amount of cordage that they give you, so you can use this obviously for a variety of different purposes. When it comes to securing the knife, you have the knife in here and it's snapped. This is snapped around the handle. Your belt's going to go through here and then put this cordage around your leg. And I personally have no concerns about the knife falling out or me losing the sheath or it dropping off my gear, as long as you secure it the way it's supposed to be secured. Now the other side, talking about the sheath, is that you're probably saving $15 to $20 when you buy this knife by the fact that they haven't dumped a lot of money into the sheath. And you'll see that with a variety of different knives out there, that they're saving you money by the fact that they haven't put a lot of money into producing a sheath that, you know, has all kinds of bells and whistles. So this is going to function. It's very basic. There's nothing fancy about it, but it will hold your knife and keep it safe while you're out there in the woods. Some final thoughts on the knife. First off, if you've seen my other reviews, you'll know that I generally prefer a slightly smaller survival knife, something more of a bushcraft size. But the thing I do like about this knife is that I can do some really aggressive work when I hold that handle, like so, but when I choke up, I can also do some of that fine detail work. So this is kind of a best of both worlds for me. I will definitely be using this one a lot more when I get out into the woods. You can certainly see that the blade has taken some serious abuse, and that finish is coming off. We'll see how that holds up in the long term. I would definitely say of all the knives I've reviewed so far, as far as doing batoning with them and such, this one I really was the most aggressive with, and despite all that and the wear here, the blade does seem to keep quite a nice edge. So that's certainly a plus to it. I do like the style of the handle. I think that's good. I would like to see a little bit flatter of a pommel. That's just my preference, something a little bit flatter. Instead of doing breaking, I'd like something I could actually maybe hammer with a bit, but that's just a preference that I have when it comes to wilderness survival or camping. And again, the other thing to remember is that you can get this blade, the SCHF3, which is going to have serrations out about a third of the way up the blade. So you do have a couple options with this style of knife. Thanks as always for checking out the review. Please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids on YouTube. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check us out on Tumblr. Take care.